It's not everybody that comes up with their Tussin DM to do the Sunday lesson. I know that I'm supposed to do a meditation about this time, but today is a special day. It's Mother's Day. So we're going to celebrate. You all have a list of questions that I gave you that you can take this home and you can do this. These are questions to ask your mother now, not later. But what I'd like to do first is, I know we must have somebody that is the newest mom in this room. Who's the newest mom? Even if you're traveling, do we have a new mom here or somebody with a small child or a young son? Give this to your daughter, please. He's 2, okay. And I know that we have lots of mothers and grandmothers and great-grandmothers in the audience today. So how many, let's take a quick look. Who has the most great-grandchildren? Who has the most great? 5. 5 and 5? 5 going on what? Did somebody say 5 going on? Going once, going twice. Okay, let's give these out to the great-grandmothers. Ooh. And who has the most grandkids? How many grandkids do we have? 8? Anybody greater than 8 grandchildren? How many kids did you have that you've got 8? My gosh. Here you go, Grandma. What I would like to do, though, is involve you in a couple of questions about mothers. So what I'd like you to do is turn to somebody and tell them what your mother's favorite food dish was. Just turn to somebody and tell them. Share that. Whatever her favorite dish was. Okay. My mother loved tamale pie, and it became a family tradition. What was your mother's favorite color? Turn to somebody new. Turn to somebody new and tell them what your mother's favorite color was. Okay. Who was your mother's favorite actor? Now, this may take some real digging. Who was her favorite actress? And to finish it off, what was the first gift your father gave your mother? The first gift your father gave your mother. Okay. What we've come to understand, how many of us still have a mother living? How many of us obviously have lost our mother? Let's hold those up. You know, it used to be a tradition when I was a kid going to church that if you had lost your mother, you wore a white rose. If you still had your mother, you wore a red rose. And I see down here some beautiful pink roses. I lost my mother back in 2006, and when I was looking at these questions this morning, I kind of went, well, I know what her color is. I know who her favorite actor was, but I sure as heck don't know what the first gift was that my dad gave her. And I'd love to know that. I know what the gifts were that they exchanged the Christmas before they got married, but I don't know the rest. So take that time to really, if your mom is still living, be sure and find out all that you can about her. Before I start the Sunday lesson this morning, let's just take a moment to go into prayer. Father, Mother God, we just give thanks. Thanks for the many blessings of the mothers that have cherished us, have loved us, have taught us, have encouraged us as we've moved through life in the highs and the lows. We give thanks for all that they have given, all that they have sacrificed to make it possible for us to have a joyful and loving life this day. I give thanks for this community. Thanks for all that we have been given as we continue to prosper. And I just let this go knowing it's done in mind, in love, and in law. And we say together, and so it is. As many of you know, the Centers for Spiritual Living picks an annual theme. And on the annual theme, they pick a monthly theme, and then in turn, they decide what the topic is for every single Sunday. I have to tell you, I gasped a little bit when I saw that my topic today was cause and effect. I think we all know what causes motherhood, and we certainly know the many effects that can happen for all of the offsprings. So I'm not going to focus on cause and effect except as it is related to motherhood today. A 6-year-old boy was separated from his mother in the grocery store, and he ran around up and down the aisles yelling, "Martha! Martha! Martha!" And she finally showed up and said, "Here I am, but honey, you're supposed to call me Mom or Mother. I'm your mother. You don't call me by my first name." And he goes, "Yes, I know, but there's so many mothers in the grocery store." Our world is full of mothers. Some of us had them naturally, some of us adopted them, some of us raised others through our partners, and of course I have 4-legged kinds. But our world is full of mothers, but we only have one mother who's really special, and that's the mother that raised us, and that's the way it should be. And nobody can take the place of that special woman. Someone wrote, "You've turned into a mom when you double knot everything that you tie. You find yourself humming the ABC song as you do the dishes, and you hear a baby crying in the grocery store, and you start to gently sway back and forth, even though your kids are grown. You actually start to like the smell of stewed carrots mixed with applesauce, and you spend half an hour searching for the sunglasses, and your teenager looks at you and says, 'Mom, why don't you just wear the glasses that are on top of your head?' You're out to a really nice romantic dinner with your spouse. It's been a long time, and you're having a great adult conversation, when suddenly you realize that you've reached over and started to cut their steak. Indeed, you realize you've turned into a mom. I can remember when my mother died and I delivered her eulogy. One of the many fond memories that I had that I shared that my dad didn't even know about was the fact that my mother taught me to whistle when I was about 3 years old. Some of the other things, however, that she taught me were we were from a very church-centered family, and so I learned a lot of religion from my mother. You better pray that that comes out of the carpet. She also taught me logic, because I said so, that's why. One of my favorites was the foresight that she taught me. Make sure you wear clean underwear when you go out in case you get in an accident. Don't you just love that one? I don't understand the logic behind that one. One of them was also foresight. Make sure, one of them was irony, rather. Keep crying and I'll give you something to cry about. Then, of course, there was stamina. You'll sit there until that spinach is gone. I loved the weather lesson. "Your room looks like a tornado hit it, Eileen." Of course, there was the behavioral modification. "Stop acting like your father." She also taught me envy. There are millions of less fortunate children in the world who don't have wonderful parents like you. Or the anticipation one. Just wait till you get home. Of course, there was medical science lessons too. If you don't stop crossing your eyes, they're going to stay that way. And Mom taught me how to become an adult. If you don't eat your vegetables, you'll never grow up. To this day, I still hate vegetables. Mom was real big on family genealogy. She loved it when we'd pull out the old family pictures, so she taught me about my roots. Shut that door, you weren't born in a barn. And the one that I found particularly true recently was the wisdom lesson. When you get to be my age, you'll understand. And sometimes now I really do understand. Finally, Mom taught me justice. One day you'll have kids, and I hope they turn out just like you. In all truthfulness, my mother didn't say all of those things, but I can tell by the response of everybody in the audience that you've heard them before. Mothers are perhaps the most powerful and influential forces on the face of the earth. Besides the many lessons they teach us, a mother's hands are never ever still. They are constantly busy providing for their family. Proverbs 31 shares the wisdom of the king and prophet Moal. And he's talking in chapter 31 about the things that a wife or a woman brings to the family and to the husband. And while the words are ancient, and we can easily adapt them and understand them by today's standards. In verse 13, 19, and 22, we are told that a mother seeks wool and linen and works willingly with her hands. She puts her hands to the spindle and she makes herself a covering of tapestry and clothing in fine silk. While the king is truly talking about her ability to make materials and sew beautiful clothing for herself and her families, mothers today may not only sew, but more than likely they have hobbies and other skills that benefit their families. Not only is she clothed beautifully, but my guess is she also makes sure that our children are likewise clothed properly and appropriately. In verse 14 and 15, we're told that she brings food from afar and rises also while it is yet night and gives good to her household. My mom and dad were married for nearly 70 years. She always told me, never send your husband to do the grocery shopping. Mom would always say Dad was challenged to get the right produce, and he sure didn't know how to select, or the right product, and he sure didn't know how to select produce. We'd always laugh and say my dad would burn boiling water. Now, there's no offense to the gentlemen in the audience, because I know a lot of you are outstanding cooks, and you certainly know how to shop. And verse 16, we learned that she planted a vineyard. Now, I don't think any of us plant vineyards in Chico these days. However, we do know that it's spring. All we have to do is walk into Home Depot and see the vegetable plants as well as the tomato plants that are there that mothers take home and plant to create the food for their families during the summer. Verse 18 says her lamp does not go out at night. Often after working all day, mothers continue to work into the evening hours, helping their children with their homework, doing the laundry, cooking meals, fixing school lunches for the next day, or cleaning house. What's that old saying? Men works from sun to sun, but a woman's work is never done. Ah, you know it. Indeed, a mother's hands are always busy helping her family. We know that mothers teach us. A London editor submitted to Winston Churchill a list of teachers that he had had through the years, and he sent the list back. And he said, "You forgot the most important teacher I ever had, my mother." While we don't know if Mary Magdalene was ever married or even a mother, we do know from her gospel that she was a teacher, a female teacher. And when the disciples were disappointed and devastated by the death of Jesus, Peter asked Mary to teach and share what Jesus had shared with her in private that he had not told the disciples. Her response was simple: "I will teach you about what is hidden within you." As children, and then even as adult children, we never stop learning from our mothers. They share what is hidden within us. Preacher Campbell Morgan had 4 sons, and they all became ministers. At a family reunion, friends looked at one of the sons and said, "So who's the best minister among all of you?" And he looked at him and replied very simply and quickly, "My mother." I don't remember much of what my mother said to me when I was a kid. I'm sure she said plenty, however, especially when I was a rebellious teenager. I used to tease Mom in front of people by saying, "Oh, Mom, you know, I was the best kid you ever had." There were only 2 of us. And she'd say, "No, you weren't." Which meant she lectured me many times about what to do and what not to do. This was a woman who could put on a dinner party for 60 people. I learned much, not only from her lectures and her humble words, but from the unspoken teaching she did by example. She was incredible. An epitaph on a man's wife's tombstone, written, stated after 60 years of marriage, "She always made a home happy." That truly is love. From their first touch, we know our mothers love us. There is something special about that bond between a mother and a child after she's carried it for 9 months that lets us know instantly we are loved, we're wanted. A mother teaches us how to laugh. A grandmother was talking and tucking her granddaughter in one night when the girl said, "Mom and Dad are entertaining some very important people tonight downstairs, aren't they, Grandma?" "You're right," she said. "But how did you know?" "Just listen," she said. "Mommy's laughing at all of Daddy's jokes." Where there is a lot of laughter in a home, you just know that something good is happening in that home. Laughter is good for our soul. It stirs our emotions and takes our mind off of the things in life that may have gotten us up and down. Mothers not only teach us how to laugh, but how to laugh at ourselves. Mothers put their families above themselves. A teacher at school put the question to James one day in the math class, "Now, James, suppose you had a mother and a father, and there were 8 children within that family, and your mother came out with a huge cherry pie and sat it down at the dinner table after you had all had dinner. How many pieces would there be? How many, and how much would you get?" And he said, "A 9th. The teacher looked at him and said, No, James. Now pay attention to me. There are 10 of you in that home, 10 of you sitting at that table." "Yes, ma'am," he replied. "I know my fractions, but I know my mother even better. She'd never take a piece. She'd let the rest of us have it all." The unselfishness of a mother shows her love she has for her family. And all of us can remember many unselfish acts of devotion that our mothers gave. A friend of mine was visiting her elderly mother who was stricken with Parkinson's disease. She had to travel a distance to be able to get to her, and she was visiting for a few days. They were sitting all alone one day, and the mother was in her recliner. and the daughter was sitting on the couch. And all of a sudden, my friend started to pour forth all of the challenges that she was having at work. And her mother, she looked up and she started to cry. And she looked at her mother, and her mother was struggling with Parkinson's to try and get out of the recliner. And she goes, "Mother, what are you doing?" Her reply was very simple. "I'm coming over there to love you." Mothers indeed are all about love. When I was preparing for today's lesson, I came across a job description for mothers. Here are a few of the duties, responsibilities, and requirements. 1. This is a permanent job. The successful applicant must be prepared to work hard. The workplace is often a challenging and chaotic environment. Applicants must possess excellent communications and organizational skills and be willing to work variable hours, which will include evenings, weekends, and being frequently on call for 24 hours. Extensive chauffeuring duties are required. Travel expenses are not reimbursed. Some overnight travel may be required, including trips to campsites in the rain and countless sports tournaments in faraway places. Must be willing to be hated, if at least temporarily, until someone needs $10. Must be willing to bite their tongue often. Must possess the physical stamina of a peak mule and be able to go from 0 to 60 miles per hour in 3 seconds flat, just in case this time the screams from the backyard are genuine and not somebody crying wolf or playing. Must be willing to face stimulating technical challenges, such as small gadget repair, mysterious sluggish toilets, and stuck zippers. Must screen phone calls, maintain calendars, coordinate production of multiple homework projects, and must have the ability to plan and organize social gatherings for clients of all ages. Must be willing to be indispensable 1 minute and an embarrassment the next. Have you ever tried to drop your teenager off at school, at junior high or high school? Must be able to handle the assembly and the product safety testing of hundreds of toys and battery-operated devices. Must always hope for the best, but be prepared for the worst. Must assume final, complete accountability for the quality of the end product. Responsibilities also include floor maintenance, laundry, and janitorial work throughout the place of employment. Promotional perspectives, absolutely none. Your job is to remain in the same position for years without complaining, constantly retraining and updating your skills so that those in charge can ultimately surpass you. Previous experience? None, because no employment is totally relevant, but for on-the-job in-service training is offered on a continually exhausting basis. Wages and bonuses? None. Job for satisfaction is what you will hopefully receive. Outlays, you pay every bill for your child at least until they turn 18, because of the assumption that college or training school will help them become financially independent. Benefits? Well, while there's no health or dental insurance, no petition, no tuition reimbursement, no paid holidays, and no bonuses are offered, the job supplies limitless opportunities for free hugs for your entire life. Tenure for the rest of your life. Obviously, this is a little tongue-in-cheek. I'm sure, however, that many mothers here today will relate to some, if not all, of these job requirements. Just in case you haven't sent your mother a card, some flowers, or a caring gift, it's not too late. Sunday's not over with yet. There's still time to call or to visit. Or for those who have lost our moms, we can still give thanks for all they gave throughout their whole entire life, all that they taught us, all that they gave us unselfishly, and all the love. Henry Ward Beecher once said, "A mother's heart is a child's classroom." Let us give thanks for the hearts that guided our lives as we honor our mothers this day. This is the truth in my life, and this is the truth in yours, and so it is.